Hey, folks, this is Rebel Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tornado Tony Pennicow.
And Psychic Tom Badgett with his crystal ball unveiled, ready to go.
So if all goes to plan, in about 12 hours from now, I should be right over about South Carolina. Maybe I'll be hitting crossing the border of Florida. Because then I gotta.
The storm is heading to Florida.
And
the tornado is being tracked. The path of destruction.
I know Rich saw it the other day. I did some blogging. I did some blogging last week, and I read a lot about boxing. Obviously, I know it pretty well, but I use a lot of boxing, analysis in my life. And I always talk about the story when I was getting beat up in the prison that time, and I had the choice to fold or fight, and I threw the left hook and got the guy's respect. And I said, and ironically, last week that popped up on my Facebook memories. And I said, you know what? I said, I always read it every year because it shows, because this was right when COVID was just really starting. And I was, at the time, getting over my friend Hank Sister's death. I was getting over a work transfer that was just happened that week. We were hearing about COVID, but it was, to me, a blip on the radar. A minor blip on the radar. It was like a locomotive 200 miles away, and I was trying to outrun it on foot. Well, eventually it was going to catch me. And I said, the most important thing was that writing that was therapeutic because it showed me that courage will be there when I need it, but it also showed me that I read all the comments that people wrote. And a lot of people, they weren't, writing those comments because I wear a shiny cape or, I'll sing Baby Got Back. They're writing it because they like the kid from the neighborhood. They're like the old school kid they knew. And I'm like, so that'll show you, when you need it, you got people that'll have your back. So this week I said, I really want to write something. I really want to blog something. And I did it for two reasons. I did it for myself, for one, to just kind of therapeutic. But I also did it because a lot of people, they suffer. A lot of people suffer in silence. And it's, it's sad. It's admirable at the same time. You got to be strong. You feel like you have to be strong. You feel like people don't understand. Then when you see somebody, and hey, I'm not putting myself on a pedestal, but when you see somebody that's always on, always out there, always, on a high, and they're saying, you know what? Hey, life gets me too. And you see that, and you're like, oh my God, this guy that's always, just a ball of energy sometimes needs that minute between the rounds to sit down and regroup. And that can help them. And if anybody ever wants to reach out to me, say, yo, I read your stuff. And that took a core to me. So, but one of the things I said in there, I said, what, I'm looking forward to this trip. And I said, I did a ceremonial de-sleeving of my shirts, the 2 new shirts that I bought. And I said, I did the ceremonial de-sleeving, and I'm going to get on that plane, and I'm going to hit that town like a fucking tornado. No pun intended. So I'm just hoping with this TSA bullshit, there's no delays.
Yeah, what kind of shit going on? Iran has already started doing the cyber attacks too.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if anybody's gonna see it at work, but I guess they tried to do something with the pacemakers, which seems like a genius idea, but it obviously didn't even affect anybody's actual pacemaker. Just made the system a little bit harder to monitor, apparently. But anyway, craziness going on. White usually is getting sued, usually talking about getting sued, usually on the stand. The last time we heard about him in a lawsuit. Now he's talking about being the one who sues, as there's some stuff unfolding with Jai Opatai winning the Zuffa belt. He's supposed to win the IBF belt too, and you wonder why people don't pay their sanctioning fees. Well, this guy paid his sanction, and he don't get the belt. The belt was supposed to be on the line. but the IBF got into a dispute with Zuffa and refused to authorize it. So now he's talking about suing over it. But the sanctioning body expressed disappointment that Opatai entered the bout as the IBF cruiserweight champion, but didn't prominently display the bouts during the press conference, in which Zuffa's belt took center stage. So the promotion still didn't put the belt on the line, despite him paying the IBF sanctioning fee. Now that Dana White believes that's going to push them both to court. So, $80,000. Can you imagine that? And IBF had a rehydration clause for the events where they weren't even going to win the belt. Just, no, I guess. Now they're saying they're going to strip them. $1,000 down the drain. Yeah, so that's probably a pretty good court case. So, yeah. His whole goal, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, was to be the undisputed champion. So, to lose the belt like that, unacceptable. And, of course, big UFC news is the UFC card. Jon Jones not on it, and boy, there's a lot of discussion over that. Jon Jones basically saying they lied to him. They were moving forward with this whole fight, and there was nothing wrong with him. He could fight, and just like I said, the arthritis came out. Somebody apparently was wearing some blue glasses and recorded him talking about his hips being trash. So apparently that meant that he couldn't fight. But Jon actually got like a shot in the hips, and he was doing therapy, and he was getting ready for this fight that he was supposedly going to have. So I don't know. It's back and forth. He asked the UFC for his release. PFL just released Francis Ngannou, and what did he do? He called up to Jake Paul, and Jake Paul hooked him up with a fight on the Rousey undercard. So then Jon Jones got talking to Jake Paul, and I think he wants to do the same thing. And he probably would have made the fight with Ngannou if he had known that the White House was not a possibility. But overall, the entire card seems pretty weak to me based on what we were promised. You know, granted, it wasn't Dana that promised it. It was Trump. He said, like, there's going to be 6 title fights. All kinds of stuff that didn't really materialize. What we do have is Justin Gaethje versus Ilia Topuria in the main event. And it's a tough fight for Justin Gaethje. I don't know about this. Got a battle ahead of him for sure. And that's actually one for a title, the lightweight championship title. Heavyweights in the co-main event. Alex Pereira abandoning his light heavyweight belt, apparently. He's going to stay at heavyweight. And he's going to face Cyril Gane, who he hasn't fought all that much over the last few years. He's been doing a lot of movies. But, he looked actually, from what I heard, pretty decent against Tom Aspinall, other than the eye pokes. And he's always been a very cautious fighter. So I think there's going to be some styles clashing with that fight. And I think Pereira is really going to have to be aggressive. You know, we can't have any of that stuff like we had the fight before the rematch there with that the Russian dude. We have to see a lot more from him. And then surprisingly, we don't have any other title fights on the entire rest of the main card, and we haven't heard anything about preliminaries. Will we even have preliminaries? seeing as this is a special situation. I would think they must have him. But anyway, Sean Sugar O'Malley is going to be facing Ayman Zahabi. You know, if you were to tell me, you know, who do you expect to be on the White House card, Sean O'Malley would have been the last person. But I guess he's pretty decent. He's with, you know, he's got a pretty good relationship going on with Trump. And I remember one of the fights he lost against Vallejos. He like was apologizing up and down to Trump because he came to see him. So that's a fight. I don't know if it's going to be a great one. Michael Chandler versus Mauricio Hufty. That one just great. I think Hoofy's going to take care of business pretty easily. I don't see how that's even a fight. Bo Nickel. I didn't even know if he was still with the promotion. Thought he went to Real American Freestyle for good and wasn't coming back. There he is. Started winning again in fashion. So that's a decent bout, but it's not your superstars. Not what I expected at all. And then we got Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia. That one is going to be interesting. Diego Lopez kind of left his killer instinct at home the last few fights. He's going to need it against Steve Garcia, who just recently stopped a streak of straight finishes. So that's all they have so far. But not the Freedom 250 event I expected at all. Did any of you guys get to watch the Zuffa card last week for boxing?
I got the main event. Yeah.
I was over at my friend's house, but we were watching some of the older ones.
Well, Obatai, you know, I'll say in the main event, Brandon Glandon, he has all my respect. I mean, that guy was so hard to knock out, and he wasn't knocked out. And I mean, he was losing every round, but man, he kept hanging in there. And Obatai, that's the first time I'd watched a full fight with him. And he has that nightmare style, that tall southpaw. And, you know, it was one of those kinds of fights, you know, you knew after the first couple rounds where this whole thing was going. But Landon really hung in there. And toward the end, Jai was trying to stop him. But couldn't do it. Just couldn't do it. But apparently, Obatai has visions for heavyweight because he is a big guy. But he said he wants to clean out the cruiserweight division first, kind of like Usyk. So see how it goes.
Evander Holyfield passed to the heavyweight championship.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't get to see the main event. I kind of got sidetracked. I was watching the earlier fights though, and I could not believe it. There were 2 draws in a row. One of them, the guy knocked his opponent down in the first round, and then the second round, the other dude knocked him down. So it was that kind of fight, back and forth, and then ended up being a draw. Very next fight on the card, draw. I was like, wow. They were shorter fights, but still. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can get back on there and watch that Obatai fight, though. I do want to see him in action, seeing as he's supposedly the best guy they have to offer on their out of their stable. WBO Asia Pacific Super Featherweight title went to Shunpei Ohata. Saturday, beating Rio Sato 7-1. Going in. See what else we had going on. Jeez, we didn't have much last week, huh? That's really it. That's what we had going last week. I put like 3 stars instead of 2. What's going on here? That was really it. All right, I guess we'll go to the schedule. 2 stars. So how long are you down in Florida for?
I fly home on Wednesday. So my game plan, it worked last year, but you never know with how the airlines are and the weather. It was ironic. 4 years ago today, I was looking at Facebook memories, was when I had that flight delay by 6 hours because there was a fuel leak on my plane. And so I was supposed to take off at, like 8 in the morning, arrived at like 10:30. I got into town at like 4:30. So it's definitely, was a little bit of a rough start to that trip. But last year worked perfect. Flight was scheduled for 7. We were up in the air by 7. Landed at 9:45, and jumped my Uber right to the hotel. They're like, "Your room's not ready." I said, "Hold my bags in the back room. I'm suiting up and going to the game." And it was great because, and Rich, from boxing, you know that feeling, and John Scully talks about it a lot, that feeling in the locker room. And that can make, any man really question himself. And, you really it can make anybody really be turned into a coward. So a lot of times when I go down there, even to say I was flying tomorrow when I was going to the game on Saturday, I have 24 hours almost to think about it. And it's like, you're just thinking, and it's like, okay, I know what to do. I've trained for this. I know what to do, but it's the doing it. And, if tomorrow works out well, it's like I get there. And as soon as I get there, it's like, shit, it's go time. It's like almost being like, supposed to be like the 10th fight of the night, and you're called out, and you're like, yeah, warm up, you're the second fight. You don't have time to worry about it. You just throw your shit on and do it. So that's what I'm kind of hoping works out. Hit 3 games.
There is one boxing card in Kissimmee, Florida, tomorrow night. Friday the 13th, by the way. Were you aware of that? I'm sure you were. Friday the 13th.
Kissimmee, Florida. Then the Panhandle.
I don't know. I think it's like in swamp territory, but that's not saying much.
Yeah.
Anyway, Najee Lopez is in that fight. WBO Latino light heavyweight. Lopez 15-0, fighting Manuel Gallegos, who is 22-3-1. And also Dominic Valle, 12-0, fighting Eduardo Ramirez, who is 29-5-3. That's really the only 2-star fights going on Friday, according to BoxRec. So we go right to Saturday and over to Dublin. Charles Dickens' brother, I guess, here. James Dickens, 36-5, fighting Anthony Casace, who is 24-1 at super featherweight. Number 3 ranked in the world. Casace, and Dickens is number 23. And we got Pierce O'Leary, 18-0, fighting Maxie Hughes, looking for win number 30. He is 29-8-2. They're fighting for the IBO World Super Lightweight title, which is vacant. And that'll be an interesting one. Jono Carroll, 25-3-1, will be facing Colm Murphy, undefeated at 16-0 on the same card for the IBO World Super Featherweight title, which is also vacant. And even if you pay your sanctioning fee, you might not get it. No, that's the IBF. And we go to Chihuahua, Mexico, for a Chihuahua kind of fight, I guess, here. WBC Silver Flyweight title. On the line between, must be a female title too. Diana Laura Fernandez, 36-4-1, fighting 10K Tsunami, 33-15-1 at flyweight in that one. And yeah, that's really it on that card. We go down over to Spain. We've got some Spanish fights. John Fernandez, 28-3, fighting Some Bilal, 18-1 for the EBU European Super Lightweight title. And this is definitely not a good name for a boxer. Joaquin Garcia. Joaquin.
I thought you were going to say like Joking Joe Frazier or something. Like, not smoking, but joking. He's like, I'm not out there smoking, but I'm out there telling some great jokes.
You know, that can be dangerous, though, because if you get hit in the jaw when you're laughing,
break your jaw.
Well, that happened to Sonny Liston when he fought Marty Marshall. And Liston was laughing. Marshall was just screaming and yelling, and boom, he got caught. Broke his jaw. Oh, what a name.
Joaquin Garcia, 13-2-1, fighting Gianluca Seglia, who is 22-5-1, and they're fighting for a title, the EBU Silver Lightweight title, which is vacant. And then we go all the way to California for Arnold Barboza Jr., 32-1, fighting Kenneth Sims Jr., 22-3-1. So that's the juniors. They're not fighting for any kind of junior belt, though. No belt at all. Alexis Roca, also on the card, 25-2-1, and fighting Joseph Diaz, who is 34-8-1. Then the big female title fight here. Gabriela Fundora of the Fighting Fundoras. She is 17-0, fighting Viviana Ruiz Corredor, who is 10-2. And that's 3 titles: IBF, WBC, WBO World Flyweight titles on the line. That one's going to be on DAZN. I also noticed they have DAZN stuff on Prime Video. I did not know they were hooked up together. But when I was looking for the Zephyr replay, I did notice that there's DAZN stuff. I wonder how that works. Anyway. We do have fights on Sunday in Yokohama, Japan. Anthony Olasquaga, 11-1, fighting Jukiya Imura, 9-1 for the WBO World Flyweight title. You would look at those records and wouldn't think that those guys would be fighting for a world title with 12 fights for one guy and 10 for the. No, that's wild. One guy's ranked number 4 and one guy's ranked number 12 with those records. Okay. Yamanoon Nayamatron, looking for win number 30. He's 29-1, fighting Shokichi Iwata, who is 15-2, fighting for the WBC World Light Flyweight title. And there's a name from the fighting Riku Musuda, who is 9-1. Hopefully, Donaire is going to be able to handle a 9-1 fighter here at bantamweight. There's also a minimum weight fight on this card. 16-9-3 Uni Takada and 7-0 Ryusei Matsumoto. That's really it until next week. So kind of a small boxing schedule this week. I don't have too many stories queued up either. We'll check. Alerts. Oh, yeah, I didn't give the name of the guy that Ngannou was fighting on the Jake Paul undercard. I think it's Philippe Leans or something like that. Anyway. Usyk is in the news here. He's eyed for the Wardley Dubois winner, apparently. Jake Paul versus Conor McGregor boxing. What do you think about that?
Well, Ngannou wants to fight Jake.
Yeah, that's a very big surprise to me that hasn't been mentioned yet. Who would have thunk? Not to mention that. Jeez, that would
imagine what Ngannou would do to Jake Paul's job. You know,
that you can hit him. You know, his whole entire boxing career is like 30 seconds. You got to remember that. But boy, did he piss off the PFL people, apparently. Like, I mean, he left supposedly on good terms, but you know, he's the chairman of PFL Africa. He doesn't go to a single fight in Africa. Like, just no commitment, no work whatsoever. I think they kind of realized right after they signed him to the business and gave him all this authority that he wasn't going to do anything. And then he only has one fight, and he's being paid like $8 million for every fight. Craziness. But yeah, the CEO of MVP Promotions is trying to rile up this Jake Paul versus Conor McGregor fight. And it would be one of those situations, apparently, where that would be Jake Paul's MMA debut as well. They would do both boxing match and MMA fight.
Well, when is the last time Conor has been in a competitive fight? Going back to 2019, I think. Was that with
1962?
Yeah, when he got his leg broke.
Yeah.
And so let me get this straight now. It's been 7 years since he's done any competition, right?
Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
So I think it's a safe assumption that the old cliche about the Marvin Hagler saying running when you're sleeping in silk pajamas, that kind of thing, you know, maybe. You know, in other words, he's done. He's talked about coming back, but actions speak louder than words. Yeah.
Big news story came out today about the FBI. They're going to have UFC fighters down to train some of their rookie agents. The next class that comes through the FBI Academy. And wouldn't it be great if they invited whoever they suspect of rigging the fights there and they arrest him right on the premise? Fight fixing. Yeah, if I was being investigated, I don't think I'd be training those guys. I'd skip that for sure. Jake Paul will be out, though, according to this article, until late this year or early next year. So obviously Conor has plenty of time to train if he ever would take that fight. All right. Well, I guess this article clears up the Jai Opatai thing. He's not officially to the IBF title. Yeah. See if we can do the rest of that.
Well, you know, I was thinking ahead, and the winner of Zerto and David Benitez may have to fight him.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, kind of picturing how that would go, because I'm telling you, this Obatai he's just a nightmare.
Now, Tony, when you watched the old ones, did was that the first time you watched the Zuffa boxing at all?
No, I had watched a couple of them. I think their first night. I think I was sick that night with a sinus infection, so I really didn't have anything else to do. I'm like, hey, got some fights on. This is good for me. Because remember I said it was like I asked you guys, I'm like, do they have to wear black and white? I saw nobody in red. I saw nobody in blue. You know, I guess like really old school. It's like you're going to wear black and you're going to wear white. Don't put no goddamn tassels on. Don't put no fringe, no sequins.
You know, the apex where they fight is pretty much a glorified YMCA. The YMCA gym. I had a fight actually upstairs at the YMCA as a kid. That was totally unorganized. We didn't even have the same gloves. Like I had one type of glove, and then the other right hand side was a different type of glove. We went half and half, and one of them was a pair of bag gloves. Didn't even have the right padding for a fight, but this kid thought he could beat me. He never boxed in his life. He was 6 foot something, and his real name was Jim Swim.
So I mean, I understand you named somebody James because you like the name. I mean, why would you do that to a kid?
I don't know.
You're never going to go to a gym.
He goes by an Italian last name now. I don't know if it was ever the truth, but he used to go by that. People called him Jim Swim.
Jim Swim.
So we get up there, and there's like wrestling mats on the floor. And I did the Mighty Mac jump and punch from Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and yeah, that was funny. I was ready. Dana White and Eddie Hearn have still been going back and forth. Those two going crazy. And they're supposedly really going to fight. Dana has accepted the challenge. If he wants to box, he'll box him. And then Eddie Hearn, he had a great comment. He says, well, what am I... Like he says, you know? So it'll probably take a lot of jumping through hoops, and Dana White, his business associates will probably have an issue with it. But he's going to do what he's going to do. Eddie Hearn, I don't know. I think he's the younger guy. I don't know how much boxing experience he has. But Dana White really never fought. We don't have any record of a single actual competitive fight that Dana White fought in. You know, we know he trained when he was younger in boxing. But that whole thing with the Meniere's disease, from what I read, started when he got punched in the ear. He got his ears boxed, literally. And he had hearing problems ever since. So he wasn't able to fight because of that. So we'll see how he gets around it. I don't know. To just make it short and have him do a power slap fight. Bitch slapping each other so someone quits. I mean, Dana could be subjected to his own stupidity there. All right. Well, let's just get to the UFC. We had a great event last weekend, and the underdog came to fight. The favorite did not, apparently. He didn't even know how to wrestle. I was actually surprised he made it out of the first round. Max Holloway. Once again, my parlays ended up coming down to the main event, and I needed Max Holloway to win. Just needed him to win. I needed him to get a knockout, actually. And he did not. He did not. Charles Oliveira did what he does. Tried for every submission under the sun. Or himself, put himself on Max Holloway like it was a new backpack that Holloway bought at Walmart for back to school. He's just
Good description.
couldn't get him off. It was bad. Totally unanimous decision for Oliveira. And that was a great bet. I mean, the more I thought about it afterwards, obviously hindsight being 2020, I was just like, why didn't I see that? Because Charles Oliveira has the kind of wrestling skills that just beat Mateus Gamrot. How's Max Holloway's boxing going to threaten him? It's so logical. They just skip your mind. I don't know. So I regret now every single bet I made on Holloway because that was embarrassing. It's not like Oliveira came at that fight and reinvented himself either. He just did exactly what he does best to win.
Well, you remember Charles is the naturally bigger guy, and because Max was for years 145, and Charles just used his weight. I mean, he did look bigger. I mean, not that that's going to win it for him on its own, but again, this is a pattern, and I'll talk more about this in my psychic insights. But we see this pattern because, come on, after the first couple rounds, and we all, you somehow think, okay, well, maybe, just maybe, that the guy that is being owned will have a clue after he's been owned for the first 3 rounds what the strategy is going to be. But there was nothing to do to stop it. Nothing.
Yeah, you think also about how tiring that is for a guy who's more natural with striking and more comfortable on the feet to spend the entire first round fighting off submissions. Rear naked choke was close a few times, and just all the strength in the world just to prevent himself from getting choked out. It becomes more about survival than it does about competition.
But I guess the counter to that, Max is a mixed martial artist. He's been in the game more than a decade, and I guess he showed good takedown defense, but that's not going to win. And especially, I think a lot of the letdown, and I don't want to get ahead of myself what I'm going to say later on, but the BMF, you wanted maybe a little more. I'll get on that a little later.
Yeah. Lost the belt, so it's about time Oliveira got a big win like that, though. He's put in the work for sure. Anyway, Kai Barlow looking good in his fight against Rainier de Ritter. The Ritter losing by unanimous decision. That was closer than it had to be.
Yes.
I actually kind of slowed down a little bit towards the end of the fight.
I didn't see this. I didn't understand this 3-0. That was. I mean, I was okay with 2-1.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, some ugly decisions. Raul Rosas Jr. beating Rob Font by unanimous decision. That was a great one for Raul. Not so much for Font. That was actually the blueprint. Raul Rosas put down the blueprint for the main event for Charles Oliveira. Right.
Not a barn burner. Not a barn burner.
Yeah. So Rob was not able to use any of his Dust just used his youth and talent to become a backpack, the human backpack theme. And then Drew Dober, boy, with the knockout of the night, I believe, against Michael Johnson. I actually missed Gregory Rodriguez. It happened so fast, I missed his knockout. But yeah, Michael Johnson was competitive right up until when he wasn't, and he was on the ground. Knocked out, got hit with a nice shot to the jaw, and Dober, as he always does, ended up getting a cut over his eye. In the early going, but recovered and then just knocked him right out. I wish he would have done it a little bit later, because then I would have got the over 1.5 rounds. That it wouldn't have helped, because I don't know if I had Oliveira in that parlay. But yeah, Drew Dober continues to surprise people. He's just such a comeback fighter. He's kind of becoming getting a reputation for that. But before that, RoboCop dispatched Bruno Ferreira like the real RoboCop in just 1 minute and 47 seconds. And said, "Remember that time
Did you see how big he looked? Man,
No.
I'm telling you, these guys have this rehydration stuff down. The RoboCop had to weigh in at 185. Did he look like he weighed 185? I mean, my God. Wow. So he's really he's really announced himself. He's going to be a load.
Yeah. And then a wild and crazy third round by unanimous. The fight, a fighter who got kicked in the nuts was puking into a bucket.
Well, we'll do it.
You know, there was a lot of controversy about that. The rules say that when a fighter loses control of his bodily functions, the fight should be stopped. So, I again, that was strange.
Anyway, Cody Garbrandt was basically doing exactly what I thought he would do, fighting very cautiously, trying to first round, going in a little bit into the second, and then Long Zhao just started to take over. He started to piece him up, started to connect with a lot of leg kicks and stuff, and using his opportunities to get in and score and get out. And Cody Garbrandt was looking like he's going to lose the fight. And then third round happens, and it's low blow city. I think there were 4 low blows, I want to say. Almost got him disqualified, or at least 3. I think there was 3.
Yeah.
And there had been one previously, so that's why it was very close to being disqualified. So they ended up taking 2 points off him in the third round. And Cody Garbrandt was, after one, like super pissed. Looked like he was going to knock him out. He just came running across the cage at him. But then he just went right back to fighting defensively.
I kind of wish he would have kept that berserker charge. It would have been more entertaining.
And his corner's telling him to calm down. I'm like, shut up! let the guy go nuts. But yeah, Long Zhao ended up losing by unanimous decision. And that was a bad one. Dante Johnson before that, beating Cody Brundage by split decision. And that was looking like Cody was going to win that at the beginning. Dante looked like a fish out of water fighting a guy with an actual record instead of more of the pushovers he's been dealing with. Alberto Montez treated Ricky Tercios pretty bad. He gave him an anaconda choke. 40 seconds into the second round, that was it for that one. Naim Jargol Tumen Dembarel beating Cody Durden by unanimous decision. That was pretty one-sided. Sue Mudarji beating Jesus Santos Aguilar by unanimous decision. That was not as close as I thought it would be. I went back and I looked at all my losing bets, and I had an 8-leg parlay. That was the only fight that lost. So I should not have put my money on Jesus in that scenario. Like I said, he was going to have to walk on water to win that fight, and he did not. He did not at all. Dr. Nergoze was not supposed to win his fight, second fight of the night. There were 2 back-to-back upsets. That YouTube channel I talked about that just basically has all the rundowns of the best channels on all of YouTube for picking fights, and not a single person that they polled and they looked at had these 2 guys winning. Dr. Nergoze. It's got this little eye twitch thing that he has. It's kind of funny to watch, but that fight was back and forth, and then Nergoze just kind of took over, won by unanimous decision. And Rodolfo Bellato, they were talking about UFC. What does Bellato do? He comes in and knocks Fernandez out in 2 minutes and 42 seconds. So great job on his part. It was a good little event. I enjoyed watching it. I was kind of surprised by a few fights, but just overall thought it was pretty decent level of competition. Now we have another Apex fight coming up on Saturday. We got Josh Emmett facing Kevin Vallejos at featherweight in the main event. Josh 19-6, Kevin is 17-1, and I'm pretty sure that Emmett has the more high-level experience for that kind of record. But let me just check out Vallejos real quick. Vallejos is knockout heavy. He's got 12 of those 17 wins by knockout. Of course, only 1 loss by decision to Jon Silva, of all people, back in 2023 in the fight that was supposed to get him into the UFC. It was the Dana White Contender Series, his first crack at it. He lost to Jon Silva by unanimous decision. Next chance he gets was against Cam Teague, and he did not waste time. Knocked him out in 2 minutes and 23 seconds. So he's only officially had 3 UFC fights going up against Josh Emmett. I like his record. He obviously got some ability, but Josh Emmett going to be a tough egg to crack. And it's probably going to be a 5-rounder. If it's a main event, I would think I would. So I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm leaning towards Emmett based on his experience. We got Amanda Lemos versus Jillian Robertson. A couple submissions. Division. That's going to be entertaining for sure. I'm going with Lemos, though. I really like her tenacity. Kind of became a big fan of hers when she went up against the Chinese fighter there in Boston. She kept going for her guillotine submissions, which looked very close, but it was Wiley Zhang. She was ready for him. Then we got Elon, the Incredible Hulk, Kutalaba, 19-11-1 at light heavyweight, facing Umar Sy, who's 12-1. I like Sy in that one. Kutalaba is just so on and off, up and down. You never know what to expect. And then, speaking of, Andre Fili, 25-12 at featherweight, fighting Jose and 2. And Fili, he's one of those any kind of, any given Sunday type of fighter. He just, sometimes he shows up, sometimes he doesn't. Might just stay away from that one. Then we got 10th fight of the night, Marwan Rahiki, 7-0, fighting Harry Hardwick, 13-4-1 at featherweight. Don't really know about either one of those guys. Vitor Petrino fighting Steven Asplund. And this is the guy that had the fat surgery. He came in and started doing MMA and kicking ass. And he always gives a great post-fight speech. I know he went from the Contender Series right into his first fight and won the first fight pretty handily against Sean Sharaf, TKO in the second round. Vitor Petrino, I think, is a little bit tougher of a fighter than he's ready for, but you never know. You never know. This kid's on a streak. Vitor just took out Thomas the Train Peterson by third round knockout, 26 seconds in back in October of last year. But Vitor Petrino has also been knocked out in the third round by Dustin Jacoby. Anthony Smith guillotined him in the first round as well. But, yeah, that's pretty evenly matched. That one could go either way. Might be one of those bets. Just go on the result, knockout, whatever that is. For odds. Charles Johnson going in at 18-8, fighting Bruno Silva, 15-7-2. That ought to be a good one. Those guys kind of journeyman type fighters. Got a big chunk of losses, but on one particular night they might really shine. The last time Bruno Silva fought, I thought he was going to get wasted. He ended up winning. And Charles Johnson could be very unpredictable too. He's just as likely to knock somebody out as he is to get knocked out. So, I guess I'm going to have to go with Bulldog, Bruno Silva. He's just really impressed me last time. I doubted the hell out of him. Then we got Brad Tavares, 21-11, fighting Eric Anders, who's 17-9. Both these guys more like old school fighters. They'll just stand there and throw 1-2s at each other until somebody drops. Brad Tavares, I think, is a little bit more technical than Anders. Anders is more of a brawler. But, pretty similar records. I kind of see that one going to a decision. Let's see. And then we got Chris Curtis, 32-12, fighting Miktabek Oralbai, who is 15-2-1. I like Oralbai on that one. I just think his wrestling and his cardio is going to win the day there. Olaji Oki before that in the fifth fight of the night. He is 10-3, fighting Manuel Souza, who is 13-1 at lightweight. Don't really have a pick on that one yet. Further research. Luan Lacerda at bantamweight, 13-3, fighting Hitcher Sosa, 13-1. Very evenly matched there. Beatriz Mesquita, 6-0 at bantamweight, fighting Montserrat Rondon, 7-1. And we got Elijah Smith, 9-1, facing Su Young Yu, 16-3. And I predict Elijah's going to win that one. I just don't see his star that's rising getting anything in its way. It's just going to burn right through anything that gets in its path. So, Su Young Yu are in the path of Elijah Smith. His dad is training him. He's just so solidly put together and got really good wrestling, really good cardio. And I think he's gonna be able to win the day there at bantamweight. Second fight of the night there, and then first fight of the night, Piera Rodriguez, 11-2, fighting Sam Hughes, 11-6. It's a strawweight female fight, and that's one of only three female fights on the full card. So we'll see how that goes. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. Sam Page, they call her. Sam Hughes is going to take that one. I don't really know too much about Piera Rodriguez, though. I might regret saying that. Anyway, once again, we have left the tornado warning and the psychic vision for the end of the show. I probably should have done it earlier. But
well, the only warning I got is for what's coming to Clearwater tomorrow. And if all goes well, I should be on the ground by this point. Knock on wood. No delays. And like I said, I'm bringing back the guy that everybody wants. And Tom, what I'll do is I'll send you that thing I wrote in an email, so that way you can read it, because I think you'll enjoy it, and I think I'm a pretty good writer. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that I am, because I strip down barriers when I do this. In fact, another thing I'm printing out right now is the article I wrote after Hulk Hogan passed last year, and I'm going to give it to his shop.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's still open. I was actually talking to the one girl that works in there the other day. The way things work in life, a small thing can turn into something. And I've been going to his shop since 2016, I think it was 16 or 17. I think it was 16. And every year I'd go in there, and I'd buy myself a T-shirt or whatever. And then my nephew Dominic was born, so I bought him his first shirt when he was a year old, and I started building that tradition with Dominic. My nephew Mateo was born 3 months early, a couple of years ago, when I was in Clearwater. So I'm in Clearwater. I get a phone call. Chrissy's in labor. I'm like, she's not due till June. And I'm like, I must be drunk right now. And then I get the text message later that she had the baby. I'm like, oh shit, this kid's in the NICU. He's only like 1.25 pounds. He's really going to have a hard time. And the next day I went to Hogan's shop and I bought him a little onesie, a little Hogan onesie. And I gave it to his father. When I got home, the kid was in the NICU for a few months. And when they brought him out, they put him in that. And they said he kicked out for the first time in his life, just like Hogan when he kicked out at 2. So I built this tradition. So last year I go there and I see the girl every year. And every year I'd walk in, I'd give the kid's age. I'd be like, last year it was 8 years old, 3 years old. What size? And she would find the shirts that matched that she had in both sizes. And she would tell me, because I'm like, I have no parental skills. I can barely dress myself. And we laugh about it. So last year she goes, I got something for the kids. You come here every year for these 2 boys. I got something for you. And she gave me 2 costume mustaches for them. And I gave them to the kids a month later, if we were able to get together after I got home. And they loved them so much. The little 3-year-old fell asleep with it in the car seat, and it was so cute. And only a few weeks after that is when Hulk died. And I remember that night I was crying. I was like, and someone's like, why are you crying? I'm like, because what if I lose this tradition with these 2 kids that I've looked forward to for the last decade almost, And I'm so glad when they kept the shop open. And ironically, I've become Facebook friends with this girl. So I sent her a message, and I said, I want to thank you for what you did last year. Because that simple little gesture, and ironically, it was only a few months before the man passed away, but that simple little gesture brought so much joy to these 2 little boys. And something that I wouldn't have thought of doing. And, so I told him I'm going to see him this weekend, and, I'm going to still keep my tradition going. But like I said, I'm going to hit that town like a fucking tornado. It's going to be me. It's going to be no filters, no hiding behind anything. It's going to be the tornado you guys know and sometimes tolerate.
Yes, sir. Let's get some films, or at least pictures.
Or he's taking pictures.
Oh, yeah.
All right. What about our psychic vision?
All right. Well, I will tie this into our main event last Saturday. It was probably about a month ago. I caught this article about how the era of the Dagestani wrestlers may be coming to an end. Okay. So I really haven't seen much evidence of it, so I started reading it. And the idea behind that is now that Paramount has taken over, and the pay-per-view era is gone, this is really going to be about ratings. And what causes ratings? A lot of excitement, a lot of trash talk, stuff that these Dagestani guys really aren't too good at. They're awful good at what they do. They're one-note Johnnies, but that one note's awful hard to stop. But is that cycle coming to an end because maybe they won't be signed? Now, the article gave a review, and I'll go through it brief because we know about the cycle. And when the UFC started, the whole thing was BJJ back then, and grappling was so exciting. I'm telling you guys, it was just every event was something different. And then there were all these new exciting submissions. And when the fight went to the ground, people were really intrigued because it was something different. And then came the age of the wrestlers, and you had guys like Mark Coleman, Randy Couture, Matt Hughes. I mean, these guys were violent, and they'd get you on the ground. And it was where I'm going with this. It was pretty exciting back then. And then we had the sprawl and brawl, as we called it. Starting with a guy like Maurice Smith, and Chuck Liddell epitomized it. So the stand-up guys could just keep it standing, and the grapplers had to adjust. So it was becoming a complete game, pretty much. But then here comes Khabib. And now he's back to the one-note Johnny thing, because Khabib really, I mean, he had some stand-up. Remember, he knocked Conor down. But the main thing for Khabib was just that Dagestani wrestling. So it was obvious that a lot of young guys from that part of the world would just emulate him, and they wanted to get that contract. So let's fast forward now to the trend we've seen, because there's been two others of these Dagestani wrestlers. One of them, Islam Makhachev, who recently stepped up and fought Jack Della Dana, won the title, and Hassan Chimaev, who fought Drakus. What those fights have in common? Yeah, takedown, dominating the opponent. There was a huge grappling mismatch. I mean, after the second or third round, we knew the strategy. But the problem was both Islam and Kazmat were kind of risk adverse. They just weren't really going for it that much. And you can see where I'm going with this now. That is this considered entertainment? If it's kind of like one of these just I won't say just lay and pray, but I mean, here's the thing about it. Paramount is really looking for viewers, new viewers. So I guess leading up to this, I found a statistic that for the second half of 2025, the UFC signed 52 athletes. Only one was a Dagestani wrestler. So here, because apparently Paramount is pushing the prioritizing marketability over anything else, and Western audiences like the trash talk and a lot of the banga banga banga. Now, what we seen Saturday night, this was brought up again by, of all people, after the fight, of all people to make this comment was Daniel Cormier. Now, Daniel, as we know, was a silver medalist in Greco-Roman wrestling. That's his foundation. But he was saying, was the win by Charles appropriate for the BMF title? Because when you hear the title like that, in my mind, I flash back to some boxing fights. How about Hagler and Hearns? Could that have been a BMF? How about Lyle and Foreman? I mean, those kind of things, back and forth. Forget the defense. Let's just get after it. We didn't see that Saturday night. And even Cormier was bringing it up. So I guess it's kind of an open-ended question. After all these years, have we come full circle? I mean, where's all this going? Maybe it's another cultural shift, because a lot of times a trend takes over, but maybe the era of the Dagestani guys is coming to an end. And if they can't be beaten in the cage, they'll just won't be signed, because apparently Paramount just does not think this. And if you look at those fights again with Kazmat, with Islam, and now with Charles, come on. After the first round or two, you knew what was going on, but it couldn't be stopped. So if it can't be stopped, then it should be finished on the ground. Not that Charles wasn't trying, but you know, we'll see where this whole thing's going to go, because this will be interesting to see how much influence Paramount has. Um, it remains to be seen.
All right.
So, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that it's difficult now with the president being good friends with Dana White and the whole Ukraine thing. UFC and Russia, like, it's tough. Even Dagestani being a different area of Russia. There's a lot of politics involved.
Well, yeah, that is another angle in addition to the entertainment factor. That's a good point.
Right. And then as at the same time, you know, there's a lot going on with availability for other work. Like we got Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is available as a discipline to fight in now. The UFC has their own Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu league. Then you have bare knuckle. You know, we've seen Victor Ortiz. We talked about him last week going over to bare knuckle from boxing. So, you know, the Dana White Contender Series is like a secret weapon now. Having that fight to get into the organization thing as an event, you know, it's like the only outfit that has it. And then also Zuffa Boxing at the same time. You'd like to think eventually they're going to let their MMA fighters cross over and do Zuffa Boxing fights if they want to. But neither here nor there. But wrestling is a very key part of MMA. It'll always be a key part of MMA. I think the Russians that are in there now are kind of the legends that are going to come through from that area. Like Khabib's team and all his people are kind of spread out. They're not all in the UFC. A lot of them are in PFL too. But anyway, I just believe like there's just way too much talent coming up from America now. And I don't think that the Russians are as dominant as they used to be. Although there's, you know, obviously your household names, Chimaev and Kamar, not Usman. What's the other guy?
Islam Makhachev.
Makachev. Yeah, Makachev. Those are the two big ones.
Yeah.
And then over in the PFL, you got the other Nurmagomedov cousin, who's I think it's his cousin, who's dominating pretty good over there. But yeah, some of these guys are coming from other countries too. They're not just coming from America. I remember years ago, the UFC got a guy from Germany, and they were hyping him all up. They're ready to bring him into the promotion, and then all this background with Nazis came to light, and they ended up having to get rid of him before he even had his first fight. So I'd hate to have that be the reason why the UFC doesn't sign real top talent, is because of their origins. But there's a whole lot of issues going on over there. Beyond Ukraine, there's terrorism. You know, the Dagestanis are known for being a terrorist hotbed over there.
Well, okay, but then the question would be, though, if they were really exciting fighters that people just love the action with them, would that overcome that? Because right now you're bringing up a good point about the politics, and with their style, which is not, shall we say, fan pleasing. I mean, yeah, for guys like us, you know, we're stuck. I mean, we're hooked. We don't have any choice. Well, we'll watch. But for the like with Paramount in the marketing, is that going to attract a lot of new people? Because, you know, before the Hazmat Duplessis fight, I told a lot of guys that were really casual, say, "See, check this out." Well, I never followed up with them. Hopefully, they didn't. because
Yeah.
you get that kind of a build up, and then I thought that Jack would be able to come up with some kind of takedown defense. He had none.
Yeah.
None. And again, I'm emphasizing the fact that it's on the ground. Okay, these guys have such dominance. Finish it. Go for it. I mean, I know Charles was trying, but I mean, it just seemed like with Islam and with Hazmat, it was really even more of a lay and pray than what we seen Saturday night. I mean, Charles wasn't laying and praying, but I don't know. It's
He was latched on for
yeah.
sure.
And
Don't wanna
I mean,
say,
the
oh,
grappling edge. I mean, the grappling game can't be taken away. I mean, like you were saying,
stuck to you like
jiu-jitsu
glue.
started it, and you know, then the wrestlers came along, and there has to be that element to it. But it, I guess where I was a bit frustrated is I know how exciting that stuff could be, and we're just not seeing it now like we did. Maybe everyone's just so good. Maybe everyone knows how to defend themselves on the ground, how to not be submitted, um, how to get out of
Like
the mount.
joke
I mean,
trying to go for a guillotine. Like the guillotine is one of those that not a lot of fighters are able to get anymore because there's so many known defenses for it, and you know, there's always like the joke, "Oh, he jumped the gilly."
yeah, yeah.
He's-
Well, everyone knows about it. I mean,
yeah,
armbar from the guard. When's the last time we've seen that? And
right,
you know, even Kimuras and key locks, leg locks. What happened to them? I mean, everyone knows the defense now, and maybe that's just homogenized everything on the ground. Maybe it's not the fault of these guys, but the casual fans don't understand that. You know, they don't
right.
understand how exciting it could be. Well,
Yeah,
time
well,
will
you know,
tell.
they get the knockout bonuses back too. They brought the knockout bonuses, the finish bonuses. So, you know, a lot of fighters are going for submissions and knockouts and,
Yeah, because
you know,
they used to
trying
have submission of the night. That was a regular thing.
yeah,
And
years. I remember when they stopped that because I wrote a whole article about it, and then they just brought it back. Submission of the night and then knockout of the night.
yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to see more guys, you know, just bring the excitement back. But I mean, I
They're
know
still
guys got to win, and everybody's so good, but we still need. I mean, for the BMF fight, we were really expecting just a knockdown, drag out, pure six brawl, and
yeah,
that's how it's promoted, right?
right, right.
Okay, this is a
There was
slobber knocker here. Man, these guys are going to get after it. Buckle your seatbelts. But no, no, we're not getting it.
hey, Oliveira watched his last fight. It was at UFC 300, and he saw him point down to the ground, so that's where he took him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Together to give all these people housing and stuff. I kind of felt bad. You know, it's kind of like a second hometown for him there in Vegas now. And he ended up being on the losing end there. It was bad. But he was very gracious about it.
Well,
You
I mean,
know,
what else can you do when you lose every minute of the fight, you know? Just had to be so humbling.
definitely did not feel like a bad mofo after that. Anyway,
Yeah.
I joke, and then we'll call it a night. And you probably won't even laugh at it. That's just not that funny this week. But why did the boxer start taking art classes?
Why?
Wonderful. So he could learn how to draw blood. Bring a ladder. Can you guess this one, Tom?
I didn't. You faded out. I didn't hear it.
Why did the MMA fighter bring a ladder to the gym?
Oh,
So he can climb the ranks.
hey, that's not bad. Climb over the cage, climb the ranks. Okay, I give up.
So he could work on his high kicks.
Oh God.
Shit.
You could use that one when you're at the gym, Tom.
Yeah.
So until next week, that's
All right, guys.
All
Enjoy
right.
the
predictions this week.
enjoy,
and we
and
some
have a good
questions for it.
night here. Let me
We'll see.
get on the action, buddy.
All right. Will do.
All right, yeah. Have a good trip.
Thank you. I will send you guys some photos. I'll act up.
Nice.
All right.
Yep.
I'll see you guys.
All right. Yes.
There you go.
Start recording.